In 1989, the United States government started providing assistance to persons with disabilities in Vietnam under Senator Patrick Leahy's War Victims Fund. Since then, the assistance has been one of the top priorities for the US government in Vietnam and totaled more than $60 million. The US has helped address the medical needs and support the broader inclusion of Vietnamese with disabilities into all aspects of society. In 2014, the U.S. government's assistance entered a new phase with the launch of funding opportunities through its Vietnam Disabilities Annual Program Statement, or APS. The APS represents an invitation to Vietnamese and international non-governmental organizations to submit concept papers for programs that support a more inclusive Vietnam by expanding opportunities for persons with disabilities. Programs under the APS can vary in size and length, although there is a minimum award of $200,000. The aggregate estimated budget over 5 years exceeds $20 million. The announcement of APS followed the historic meeting in summer 2013 between Vietnam's President Trương Tấn Sang and US President Barack Obama. During the meeting, the American leader reaffirmed the United States' commitment to providing further assistance to persons with disabilities in Vietnam, regardless of course. Hello and welcome to Sharing Vietnam. We've just watched a clip that overviews the support of the United States for persons with disabilities in Vietnam over the past 2.5 decades. And the support has entered another phase with the Vietnam Disabilities Annual Program Statement, or APS, launched earlier this month. In today's conversation, we will explore the program with the participation of Mr. Joakim Parker, Mission Director of the United States Agency for International Development, or USAID, and he will share with us the main focuses of the program. Mr. Parker, thank you very much for joining us today.
On this subject, it's always my pleasure to talk.
Well, Mr. Parker, as far as I know, the United States gives priority to supporting persons with disabilities in its cooperation projects in Vietnam. So could you explain the reasons for the priority?
Well, in fact, this is a program area where we've been involved in partnership for 25 years this year. That recognizes the prioritization that both our governments have given to working in this area, starting with the leadership of Senator Patrick Leahy back in 1989, in what began as a humanitarian program, but which recently has been emphasized as a broader partnership under the Comprehensive Partnership signed by our presidents last summer, and as shown by the visits of Senator Leahy in the spring, and also Judy Heumann, the Special Advisor on Disabilities Rights, in the spring. For us at USAID, it fits very well with our new inclusion strategy. And disabilities, with 10 to 15% of the population, those folks, they represent an important group who could contribute to Vietnam's growth more.
USAID has recently announced the APS grants for NGOs to support people with disabilities in Vietnam. Could you talk a little bit about the focuses of the program?
Well, we have this new strategy that I've called an inclusion strategy, and this next phase, I call it, rather than a truly new phase, because it builds on our prior work with persons with disabilities, represents our contribution to expanding opportunities for persons with disabilities. The annual program statement really is an invitation for proposals from Vietnamese groups and international groups who want to work with the government of Vietnam at the central and provincial level in this next phase of our programs together, and it represents a real commitment to implement the assistance that was discussed by our presidents last summer. And it engages us in partnership with civil society and the government of Vietnam in several different areas. Number one is what we can call the environment, enabling environment for persons with disabilities. That is the environment that gives possibility for the expanded opportunities we want to help them with. That means working with the government of Vietnam on policy, working with those who would advocate for persons with disabilities, So that environment's important, but then we're also involved, as we have been, in providing services and supporting the provision of services, particularly in physical, occupational, and speech therapy now in this next phase at the provincial level in certain parts of Vietnam to build capacity of service providers, both NGOs who are involved in partnership with government and local DELISAs and others, Ministry of Health implementing units to provide those services. And of course, we want to work with those who advocate for persons with disabilities, parents, the disabled themselves through the disabled persons organizations, and others who are committed.
APS grants are dedicated to NGOs. How could you describe the importance of those organizations in protecting the rights of people with disabilities in Vietnam?
Well, one of the benefits of working with NGOs, and particularly those who directly represent disabled persons, is it gives them a voice in policy making. There's a phrase that we often use in the development business, nothing about them without them. We often use that on gender, but it's certainly true with disabled persons. And so the point that you should not be making policy without involving those who would be affected by it in the policy making is why NGOs have such an important role.
At the end of 2013, a conference on the United Nations Convention of the Rights of Persons with Disabilities took place in Nha Trang City, central Vietnam. The event was co-organized by Vietnam's Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the United Nations Development Programme, or UNDP. The conference attracted the participation of many experts and representatives of Vietnamese and international organizations for persons with disabilities. The event was one of Vietnam's active steps to prepare for the ratification of the convention in the near future.
So we're very pleased that Vietnam is taking active steps to ratify this convention, and we will continue to support not only the ratification, but once Vietnam will be a party to the convention, to, as today, convene dialogues between government, civil society and international experts to discuss concrete steps how to implement the convention and how to ensure that everybody in Vietnam enjoys equal rights, including persons with disabilities.
Tôi nghĩ là người khuyết tật ở Việt Nam đã chờ đợi cái ngày này khá là lâu rồi, bởi vì Việt Nam mình đã ký cái công ước, nhưng mà khi thực thi công ước thì xem như là nhà nước bắt buộc về mặt pháp lý phải đảm bảo đủ tất cả điều kiện để mà thực thi cái điều đó, có nghĩa là đảm bảo quyền cũng như bảo vệ và tạo cái bình đẳng cơ hội cho người khuyết tật. Đồng nghĩa với việc là nhà nước phải có ngân sách để riêng ra phần ngân sách, cũng như là phải có cái nhân sự để thực hiện cái điều này.
Tôi nghĩ rằng cái sự tác động của nhiều tổ chức quốc tế cũng như bản thân trong nước mình nữa, thì những cái điều đó nó sẽ nâng cái tầm nhận thức của người khuyết tật, và nhiều cái tổ chức phi chính phủ hoạt động thì nó cũng có công ăn việc làm để giải quyết cho người khuyết tật, thì cái điều đó nó sẽ tốt.
Vietnamese authorities say the upcoming ratification will trigger numerous efforts to provide public services for persons with disabilities, improving the legal system and raising public awareness. Along with Vietnamese authorities and social organizations, foreign partners such as the United Nations and the United States have also pledged to support the implementation of the convention in Vietnam. In particular, Vietnamese organizations for persons with disabilities are encouraged to increase their participation at international events to share experience and mobilize resources. Mr. Parker, Vietnam has signed the Convention on the Rights of People with Disabilities and is preparing to ratify the convention. In your opinion, how will the ratification impact the system of regulations and policies regarding people with disabilities in Vietnam?
Well, we're very excited at the prospect of Vietnam's ratification of the convention. Its signature in 2008, as you've said, was an important signal of commitment on behalf of the government of Vietnam. And the 2010 law on disability which we helped support, was also a sign of commitment and partial implementation. But what the convention represents is a chance for Vietnam to show leadership in an area of human rights, frankly, given that it's about a rights-based approach to disabilities that's nicely timed with its participation on the Human Rights Council, and which gives Vietnam a chance to ensure that its legal framework is consistent with international standards. Frankly, given that there's uneven enforcement right now of laws on the books, for example, accessibility to buildings, it is more likely to ensure that there's a across-the-board government commitment to enforcing the rights of persons with disabilities so that they have that chance to contribute to Vietnam's growth.
According to the description of APS, the grants are aimed at promoting policy advocacy for people with disabilities in Vietnam. Could you elaborate on this aspect?
Well, this is more or less nothing about them without them. For rights to be realized, you need effective governance, you need judicial respect, and you need to give people the voice to make clear when they think rights are not being enforced, or to ensure that policies are consistent with rights that are recognized by Vietnam's laws. So that's essentially what we're doing is taking development partners, international NGOs to a backseat and putting the people of Vietnam in the front seat in terms of engaging with government on policy.
Mr. Parker, APS grants are also aimed at boosting the role of the private sector in protecting the rights of people with disabilities in Vietnam. How will this objective be achieved?
Well, this is critical for us, and it's a recognition on both our part and the government of Vietnam that the future of employment in Vietnam is in the private sector. That's true in most countries, and it's certainly what Vietnam imagines for itself under a TPP or the free trade agreements it's negotiating with other partners, a vibrant private sector. And that's where the jobs for persons with disabilities will be, and that's what they aspire to be independent, to be able to not have to depend on their families or the state for support. So engaging with the private sector, both as a donor, but also finding ways for Vietnamese businesses to be an active part of this change in attitude towards persons with disabilities, and finding ways to give them the opportunities that we know they can succeed at. The Blue Ribbon Employment Council, BREC, that we've supported and others are very active in, has shown that you can be very successful as a business hiring persons with disabilities and get some nice recognition for it at the same time.
Mr. Parker, thank you very much for joining us today and sharing interesting information. Congratulations on the Independence Day of the United States, and I would like to extend the sincere gratitude and best wishes for the efforts of the United States in supporting people with disabilities in Vietnam.
Well, thank you very much. And if our Independence Day can translate under this program into greater independence for persons with disabilities, that'll be the best gift of all.
That is the end of our Sharing Vietnam today. For comment and feedback, please send us an email to sharingvietnam@vtc.vn. Thank you for watching and see you again next time.